All right, here to pick on the Fed again, my favorite hobby. Let's see what they got.
Well, great pleasure. Treasury Secretary, Mr. Scott Bessent. Treasury Secretary, thank you very much. I'm not going to get into the details of the construction site because I've never done that, but Mr. Trump knows a thing or two about all that. But you talked earlier.
What a crappy situation to be in where the president's coming to check on your homework, the 2.5 billion or whatever they're doing for the Fed renovation. And he just happens to be a real estate mogul who's done a lot of big builds. It's bad luck.
I don't know how many days ago, at some point, a thorough top-to-bottom review of Fed operations outside of monetary policy, which struck me as a very, very terrific idea. And I just wonder if you could share this. Is it going to talk about regulations, the Federal Reserve district banks, the amazing growth in the Fed staff, not just in Washington, but all around the country, millions of economists. Their finances are in a shambles. They're losing money every day. Their portfolio's underwater. Their interest expense exceeds interest received. They have the printing.
Dude, Pops is going in right now. I like this guy. He's good. He's going in.
Presses, and they're losing money. If I had the printing press, I think I could make money. Anyway, might this review go through some of those items that I talked about?
Larry, good afternoon.
The cool, calm, and collected Mr. Bessent right here. Can't wait to hear this.
I think they should go through all those items and more. And think about it. The Fed is the house. It's a casino. The casino doesn't lose money. The players are the ones that lose money. And I'm not going to comment. I'm like you. I don't really understand what's going on with the size, the scope, the cost of the building renovations. One can ask, was it a good idea to start the renovations for an enterprise that's losing $100 billion a year? So $100 billion because of a mismatch in the bond portfolio from the short-term rates.
That's like missing your mortgage payment and you go out and get a new car. That's what they're doing.
I think that the Fed should undertake an internal review because I think all the other operations are endangering its independence of monetary policy. As I've said, monetary policy should be kept independent. It's a jewel box, should be walled off. But by undertaking all these other activities, then you come in for criticism, just like you're seeing here, that might impinge on monetary independence.
I mean, I've seen charts, Secretary, I've seen charts. The Federal Reserve expenses, including staffing levels, have gone up 300% in recent years. I've seen complaints. Mr. Powell has said, well, one of the problems here, or staff people have said, one of the problems here with the reconstruction of the Taj Mahal is that costs have gone up. Well, who's fault?
The Taj Mahal, man, this guy is awesome. I mean, it makes me wonder how much the Taj Mahal actually cost, because the Fed building may very well cost more than the Taj Mahal.
What was that? They had 20% inflation during the 4 Biden years. I mean, I know that's monetary policy, but the mistakes were made. I mean, it's like the Fed models don't work. They're growing like Topsy. These district reserve banks, I don't think anybody pays enough attention to the power they have. They missed the Silicon Valley Bank bankruptcy because the examinations didn't work. All these problems, I call it one big central planning squid. I mean, they've gotten too big for their britches, Mr. Secretary Bessent. That's my problem with the Fed. And, of course, I believe the models are always wrong.
Well, I think their footprint's probably gotten too big in the economy. And as you said, it is a new kind of central planning that we have the Fed board, the regional presidents who come in, and it's a group who they have undue influence in the economy. The Fed should be running in the background. The monetary policy should be a byproduct of the economy, of the inflation projections, And when we go back and look at both the growth projections and the inflation projections for the past 15 or 20 years, they've been notably off. But again, I just think that they ought to get back to basics, do what the mandate is. But Larry, I would also add, this is what happens when you have an unaccountable agency. And I'm not saying that they should be accountable for their decisions, but the Fed is self-funding. That many of us, myself included, have criticized.
This might be the one time I slightly disagree with the great Mr. Bessent here. They should be accountable for the decisions, or at least we should be able to see, they should have to publicly explain why it is they come to the conclusions they come to. Like, you know, I don't care if it's a whole board, I don't care if it's Powell by himself. They need to explain to America why it is that they're not lowering rates, for instance, this time, and why they need a $2.5 billion building again, which costs more than the Buffalo Bills renovation.
The CFPB, the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, because it's also does not report to Congress. So many of the same senators and House members who love oversight of all the agencies, here at Treasury, we have very strict budget oversight. We were able to trim our budget this year. And I can tell you, I got a new tablecloth for my office, and I brought it in from home.
Well, I hope it's a good one with some lace on the side. Look, I know the president has said he doesn't want to fire Powell. It's too much bother. He's going to be gone in a couple of months anyway. But as you know, Scott, it's actually the Congress, constitutionally, it's the Congress that has the play over monetary policy, the value of money thereof, quote unquote. And I just wonder, would you consider proposing some sort of monetary policy commission if you get a new chairman? You want to have a top to bottom house cleaning, a real cleansing of what the Fed has done and how many people are doing it. But how about an actual policy commission to examine the mistakes? And I mean, we've had successes in the last 40 or 50 years, but we've also had a heck of a lot of mistakes.
Larry, I'd like to see them give it a shot internally first. Yeah, as we saw after Bank of England had a big miss in inflation, just like the Fed did in 2022, and they put together a working group. They brought in a lot of outside experts to determine what went wrong, what could have been done better. So I'd like to give them the chance to cure this internally first. I'm afraid if we get the cacophony of Congress in on this, that it might create more problems than it's going to cure.
He's got a very good point. You know that if it goes to Congress, the Democrats are going to object every step of the way, because I don't think they've voted yes on anything, frankly, that Trump is trying to push with his agenda. And we also know, based off of that they would just hold it up in court. They would filibuster. Yeah, he's right. I mean, as crappy as it is, because they're already grading their own homework, I don't want Congress involved either, frankly. If it's not something the executive can't just execute, then yeah, I guess we're stuck letting them do it internally for now.
Well, okay, I get it. I hear you. You're the Treasury Secretary and doing a very good job. Color me highly skeptical that they can do it internally. But who knows? I mean, we'll give it a chance. Anyway, I know time is short. I want to switch to trade. I think you had a big win with Japan, also the Philippines and Indonesia, but a big win. We can actually sell them farm goods, rice, automobiles. I used to go to Tokyo when I was working on Wall Street. I never saw an American car driving in the street.
Yeah, there's the point that Pops is about to make here. I literally was thinking this today with this trade deal in Japan. I got a Toyota. My wife drives a Toyota. I feel like Toyota is probably the number one selling vehicle manufacturer in the United States. Plants all over the place. And I was actually thinking the same exact thing he's about to say. How many like pickup trucks do they have in Japan? Maybe it's not feasible. But we have some good vehicles. So why is it that I get it. If it's a good deal on their end, why would they mess it up? They won't. They're going to keep selling their vehicles while also not buying ours, one-way trade. And I love the Japanese people because I am a huge anime nerd. But anyway, yeah, so I totally was thinking the same thing that Pops is talking about right now.
Treats. So maybe we'll be able to have American cars sold in Tokyo. But here's one thing that's so interesting to me and probably very important. All these deals you're putting together, you got quite a few now on the books, more coming, I presume. No retaliation has occurred from our so-called competitors or friends. Now,
we know, I know retaliation has occurred because they know Trump means business. It's not Kamala saying, don't. Just don't. Yeah, they know that Trump's actually going to follow through with what he's talking about.
that is very interesting and very positive. No trade retaliation. What you make of that?
Well, Larry, I make three things, or I'd make 3 points. One, if President Trump has changed the narrative here, that his theory of the case, and he's absolutely right, is that the entire world wants to trade with the United States of America, that the U.S. consumer, the U.S. producers are the deepest and richest, most important market. So everyone is willing to pay a toll. Two, that these negotiations, as you said, the other countries have been willing to drop all their trade barriers. Indonesia came with a series of very good offers, and I looked at what they were giving up. I think we struck out 11,000 lines of tariffs from Indonesia. And as President Trump says, I don't blame the Indonesians. It was the past administrations that let him get away with it. And then three, we are seeing now
11,000 tariffs from Indonesia alone. That's why when people are flapping their gums about Canada was never tariffing us and, we're being bad allies, it's like, yeah, they were tariffing us. If Indonesia had 11,000, I can't imagine how much tariffs Canada had against us.
President Trump has convinced the Senate, perhaps our allies, that secondary tariffs are a way to enforce foreign policy. So there's talk now of secondary tariffs on any country that buys Russian oil. So the Senate's willing to go along with that. Let's see if our European allies are also.
I really am willing to bet that the Democrats are going to say all of a sudden Russia should be able to trade their own oil. That's going to be the next big headline. Trump's a dictator for stopping Russian oil trading. We'll find out.